Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Digital Nordic and Benelux FP&A Board. We will today look at the exciting topic of moving from traditional business controlling to extended planning and analysis. My name is Hans Gobin. I am an international FP&A board and FP&A trend ambassador. And today I will be facilitating this meeting. Today we bring together the digital format board from Copenhagen, Stockholm, Amsterdam, and Brussels. We are being joined by 444 members today from 38 countries, and 82% of us are from the Nordics and Benelux area. We have a great turnout and we've got a lot in store for you today as well. So let's move on and look at what we have in terms of agenda. What we'll be discussing today is what is extended planning and analysis, XP&A, the next generation FP&A model, how do we leverage predictive analytics in XP&A, so a case study from Janssen, skills required for shift to XPNA, XPNA in times of uncertainty that we have lived through recently, and a recruiter's perspective on skills and trends. Conclusion and recommendation, and we will finish off with a Q&A session. This is a list of all the meetings we've done in the Nordics and Benelux area. I'll leave that for you to read once you download the presentation. It is now a good time for me to start introducing the great members of the panel we have today. So members of the panel, if you can switch your webcam on, that'll be great. Our first speaker today is Chris Stiebel, who is Regional Director at Nordics, for Nordics at Jedox. Chris is an FP&A professional with over 10 years of FP&A roles in different companies leading up to group CFO. And today he's working with Jedox, technology provider, in the hopes of accelerating digitization within the Office of Finance. Chris will today share with us what does the XP&A model look like. And Chris joins us from Stockholm in Sweden today. Chris, great to have you with us today.
It's great to be here, Hans. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Gianluca Capuano is our second panelist. He's currently Finance Director Controlling for Janssen at Europe, Middle East and Africa. Global Finance Executive of 25 plus years and regional finance leadership roles across the full spectrum of CFO responsibilities. Gianluca joins us from Amsterdam today and will be taking us through his case study in Janssen, paying particular attention to predictive analytics and his journey towards XP&A. Gianluca, great to have you with us today.
My pleasure to be here. Good morning, afternoon.
Thank you. Third speaker joining us today is Marco Bodinho, who is currently CFO Germany at Japan Tobacco International. Marco is a result-oriented finance leader and business partner with 20 plus years of experience in international FMCG business. Marco is a Zurich FP&A board member and joins us from Cologne in Germany today. Marco will be talking to us about the skill sets required and what he has seen in XP&A. Marco, you're very welcome. Marco, you might be on mute.
Thank you, Hans, and it's a pleasure to be here, and I experienced the most common word and sentence of 2020. You are mute. Thank you.
Thank you, Marco. Stefan Bernuto is our fourth speaker today and is CFO at Oerlikon Balzers. Stefan has 25 years of experience and leadership in automotive industry, designed and implemented FP&A tools and method to drive performance in different organizations. And he's also driving various different projects in finance. Stefan is a Frankfurt FP&A board member and presented with us quite a few times. And today joins us from Mainz in Frankfurt. And Stefan will take us through XP&A in times of uncertainties. Stefan, very welcome. Great to have you with us.
My pleasure. Thank you, Hans. Hello to all.
Thank you. Closing the presentation today will be Menno Bos, who is Senior Manager at Robert Half in the Netherlands, experienced provider of interim and project staffing solutions at director level, of course, driving internal and external strategies. Menno will today share with us the skills, demands and trends for the XPNA from a recruiter's perspective. Menno, great to have you with us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for the introduction. Great to be here.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a great international panel with great insight in store for you today. Very much looking forward to their presentations. Members of the panelists, if you can switch your webcam off, please. And we move on to our next set of slides. Very quick slide here on FP&A Trends Group. Just letting you know again, we are in 27 cities now, so 27 chapters, 16 countries, 4 continents. And as I mentioned, we're bringing together Stockholm, Copenhagen, Amsterdam, and Brussels together. Worth also highlighting under FP&A strategy advisory that through the demands of our members, we have started best practice workshop in FP&A. What is the Digital FP&A Board? It is a 90 minutes webinar. Your participation is very valued and it is via the 4 polling questions we have for you today. Please vote. Interactive Q&A session. You can ask question via the chat box. You can ask question as from now or after each presenters have made their presentation. You can network directly via LinkedIn with us, with our presenters. The presentation is available in a handout. You will receive the recording and a copy of presentation within a day after the meeting. And at the end of a session, there is a feedback session, so please give us your feedback. Our technology partner today is Jedox, modern enterprise performance management, a very smart platform for planning, reporting, and analytics. Our global recruitment partner is Robert Half, of course, one of the world's leading professional recruitment consultancies. So what is XP&A? XP&A, of course, is extended planning and analysis. The modern planning process that goes beyond finance, of course, through to the entire organization, including sales, marketing, ops, supply chain, HR, and IT. It enables consistent and continuous planning. Managed by FP&A, also known by next generation FP&A, integrated FP&A, digitized FP&A. But more importantly, extended planning and analysis has to harmonize the 3 key planning processes: the strategic planning process, the business planning process, and the ops planning process, vertically, horizontally, and across, to be able to make the most of the planning process. Traveling the world digitally, of course, we have looked at various XP&A model, and today I would like to very, very quickly just share this with you. And this was shared to us via Thomas Kojelberg, Head of Controlling and Finance at Avera. Here, the organization has gone through the evolution from traditional controlling to an XP&A organization. And you can see here how data analytics empowered and business partnering has helped them reach the next stage. It is now a good time to move to our first presentation. And in our first presentation, Chris Stiebel, Regional Director Nordics at Jedox, will be talking to us about the next generation FP&A model. Chris, over to you whenever you're ready.
Thanks very much, Hans. If you just confirm that you can hear me okay?
Yep, loud and clear.
Perfect. And again, thanks very much. It's an honor and a pleasure to be amongst the roster of panelists today, to be collaborating with the FP&A Trends Board. As Han mentioned, I'm Chris Stiebel. I'm the Regional Director in the Nordics for Jedox, which is the technology provider for the webinar today. But as he highlighted as well, I also, prior to joining Jedox back in December of 2019, I come with over 10 years of finance experience, so hands-on, theoretical and practical deep dive experience within FP&A. So it's very close to my heart, and my background does speak to FP&A. So if we move into the next slide of the presentation. Hans touched upon it a bit as well. What is XP&A in the definition, and how does it differ from what has been referred to as traditional FP&A? Bear in mind, this is all, of course, general terminology. It can be used or interpreted very differently. So let's go ahead and agree not to get caught up on semantics. But the X in this case, again, extended planning and analysis, is representing to be more inclusive than financial. It's no longer that we're only talking about dollars and cents. It's not a numbers only game. It means that we're planning cross-functionally. It's all inclusive, the whole organization. It's not just working in the traditional sense with ledgers and Excel spreadsheets, but with different systems, with quantities, supply and demand, production planning, drivers, external data, HR headcount planning, and so much more. Financial, or finance in this case, is transcending this traditional spreadsheet, general ledger, as I mentioned, and working more collaboratively with the business, more hands-on with the process owners, providing advice, being advisors, best practice, also providing the tools that are needed to do scenario planning, driver-based sales and operation planning, for example. And all of this is, of course, fueled and supported very much by digital transformation, which, as you all know, is affecting each and every one of us in our everyday lives, both in and outside of the office. So moving then into the next slide in today's presentation, to illustrate this a bit, a very simple illustration, but nonetheless, two diagrams here created to represent the difference between FBNA and XPNA in a simple model. So the organization is moving from departmental data silos, as you see on the right, with separate, non-integrated, segregated data and metadata, to an integrated, cross-organizational, cross-functional, extended planning and performance management model and set of systems. From this shift, we also see a growing demand for enterprise performance management systems, tools, specialists, and resources. Keyword there, tools and specialists, so we also need the manpower. These integrated tools and skilled XP&A professionals to support this growing trend. Next slide. What does this mean in practical terms? With the help of technology and modern tools, so-called enterprise performance management tools, you can more easily make this jump from traditional budgets created once per year with 2 or 3 forecasts put in along the way, to continuous real-time forecasting, or from high-level top-down numbers-only budgeting to granular data-driven driver-based scenario planning and forecasting, or to do another example, from data silos where data is extracted from multiple sources, consolidated in offline Excel spreadsheets or some other tool, typically by a controller, to one single source of truth, a strategic platform for all extended planning and analysis that consolidates the data in real time. So this is always available. The tool or set of tools is effectively enabling your organization to be less dependent upon individuals or controllers, or perhaps in some cases they're departmental Excel guru when it comes to just working in Excel sheets, and instead to utilize a fully self-service tool or set of tools, as mentioned, which are always available, providing the user with preloaded, augmented, insightful data, which in addition to historical data, also utilizes the latest in artificial intelligence, machine learning. Important in all of this, of course, is to remember that we are not, as finance professionals, making ourselves obsolete. It's only when we combine this artificial intelligence with human intelligence that we create an environment where we can truly make this shift and go beyond the boundaries of traditional FP&A. So the demands for our services, as mentioned, they are not dwindling, they're not minimizing, but rather they're shifting. So it's a shift in our skill set that requires us to embrace the changes around us, to transcend the traditional finance stereotypes and become more like trusted business partners, service providers, or perhaps maybe, as you would call it, management consultants. So instead of working on our Excel, our VBA skills, our hard skills, we're sharpening our business acumen while improving our soft skills. Which brings us into our next slide. What could this model look like? As also one of the other panelists will present later today, Gianluca, he will elaborate on this. There is no one size fits all, but in general terms, at a very high level, it's about the people. Combined with our mindset, process, culture, and strategy, together with the help of technology and the tools available to us to find new and exciting ways to address the challenges in front of us now and in the near and long-term future of our organization. So it's when we combine these things that we're able to address the challenges at hand. And you can see here moving this kind of general model, what it looks like, and how this shift has occurred to 10 years ago up to current, and what the future of XP&A will look like. Which brings us into our last slide, to bring a statistical representation to all of this. What does this mean? According to Gartner, 70% of all new FP&A projects will become XP&A projects by the year 2024. And I'm sure you're all sitting back now, oof, 2024, that's fine, I've got plenty of time, but we're already in 2021, so that's just around the corner. According to another survey, BARC, their planning survey, 84% of employees felt that they benefited from technology that helps them collaborate. Moving along, according to another study that we did, JEDEX did together with the ACCA and their members, 75% of members agreed that non-integrated systems presented a challenge in their organizations when it comes to planning and enterprise performance management. And last figure I'll throw, according to BARC, 84% of organizations still experience difficulties with outdated systems and static methods. So put all this together, what am I getting at? What does this mean? I think this is a clear indication that the need is there, as is the buy-in from the organization. And of course, all of this is public information. It's by no means any trade secrets. Your peers and your competitors are aware of this. So I ask you, do you think that they're sitting around working in outdated tools and methods, as you mentioned here, as you see in the statistics, a large percentage are, but do you think that they're also starting to make a move? They're starting to analyze. Wouldn't you agree that the time is nigh that you also made an evaluation or a re-evaluation? It's about constant change of how integrated and extended your tools and processes are. If you, as an individual, as an organization, are ready to go beyond traditional FP&A and to start striving towards integrated, cross-functional, cross-organizational, extended planning and analysis. So just quickly before closing, I encourage you, if you caught something from this presentation, or rather something from this presentation caught your interest, do not hesitate to contact me. Reach out to me on social media. You can find me on the professional one that starts with L. I won't mention the name. I'm always open to connect, but that's it from me for now. Thanks very much. And back over to you, Hans.
Chris, you've taken us through how controlling is different from XP&A and the challenges we face in getting there and how we tackle them. Thank you for that. Let us now hear from our thought leaders, our panelists, Gianluca and Marco, some comments from them. Can I invite Gianluca to give his comments, please?
Sure, thanks for asking, and thanks, Chris, for sharply depicting the key challenges, hard and soft, that many of us are facing while embarking in this journey to transform the organization and the finance team from FP&A to XP&A. For me, the metrics that you showed, where you mapped all the different stages and challenges, is very, it's a one page and easy to use, at least help me to clearly track where I am in that journey. So thank you very much for that. The other important point I want to make, because I feel very close to that statement, Chris, is that the combination of AI and human intelligence, so artificial intelligence and human intelligence, has the potential to bring the greatest value in this journey. So let's not forget that. You made a statement, I fully agree with that.
Thanks for the feedback. I fully agree with you as well.
Thank you, Gianluca. Marco, can I come to you for some comments, please?
Yeah, sure, and thanks for that. First of all, thanks, Chris, for the great presentation insight that you gave on XP&A. I think that your diagram that you show to us is a very, very fantastic summary of what the FBNA journey looks like. And I really like it a lot because it speaks with me and with my own word about the evolution that you will see later on in my presentation. And I like in particular the two boxes refer to people and to approach that you can translate in mindset. And I truly believe that people and mindset are fundamental asset in the journey towards XP&A. So thank you very much for your insight.
Absolutely. Thanks, Marco.
Thank you, Marco. Thank you, Gianluca. Chris, thank you very much for the presentation as well as the insight. Now that we've heard from you guys, let us hear from the members of our attendees today through the polling question, their thought around how they are utilizing, if they are utilizing at all, the XPNA strategy. So I have just launched the polling question. So can I please ask you to vote, and can you give us your opinion on, has your organization adopted a cross-functional strategy, XP&A strategy yet, extended planning and analysis? My organization has already made a move in that direction. Second, no, we updated the FP&A structure and tools to move in that direction. Third, my organization may adopt it in a few years. And fourth, we don't believe the FP&A needs a cross-functional strategy at the moment. If you can vote, please. So again, yes, my organization has already adopted it, number one. Two, we updated FP&A structure and will move in that direction. Three, we may adopt in the next few years. And finally, we don't believe in FP&A cross-function strategy. I will now close the poll, and I will now share the poll with our panelists and attendees. So we see 17% have said yes, they have already adopted, 29% will adopt very soon, 53% maybe in the future, 1% not believing that FP&A needs a cross-functional strategy. Chris and Gianluca, can I ask you to comment on this, please? So Chris?
Thanks, Hans. And actually, I think this correlates quite well to the statistics. If not, I think even we're further along than the 70% that I mentioned of by 2024 will be XP&A projects. So I get the feeling here that we're early adopters, and that the fact that only 1% said we don't believe about XP&A, this is definitely a good result in my book.
Thank you. Gianluca?
Yeah, and it's a very interesting result. It shows that in different shapes and forms, many of the participants and their organizations have a roadmap, whether it's already in progress or it will be in the next few years. It's more shown in the percentages, but everyone has in mind that there is a transformation ongoing, or that transformation is very much needed.
Thank you. Thank you very much, both. Thank you very much. Yes, absolutely. I think if you're looking there, 50% or more is adopting it very, very soon, and 50% will be adopting it in the near future. So excellent news there. I'm now going to hide this, and we move on to our next presentation, which will be a case study. And to deliver the case study, we have with us Gianluca Capuano, who is Finance Director, Janssen Europe, Middle East and Africa, and he'll be talking around predictive analytics. So Gianluca, over to you whenever you're ready.
Thanks, Hans, for the introduction. Good morning, afternoon, everyone. Gianluca Capuano, Finance Director, Controlling for Janssen Europe, Middle East and Africa. Almost 25 years in finance in different companies, but my background from an industry perspective is mostly in healthcare, both in private equity setting as well as large publicly listed corporations. And today, as part of Janssen, I want to share with you our journey towards the FP&A transformation, and more specifically, how predictive forecasting and advanced analytics are helping us towards that transformation. And you can go to the next slide, please. To start with our business case, so why we decided to prioritize predictive analytics in our transformation towards the XP&A. And we are talking about sales forecasting in this case. So volumes and sales are top line. First point that we wanted to address with this project was to streamline, simplify, and make more efficient the entire forecasting process, where today we spend quite some time and resources, not only in finance, but also in BI and business, to produce a forecast. And despite all these resources, we still have some gains in terms of accuracy. And that's another thing that we want to address with the project, improve our accuracy, focusing on the yearly forecast. The third important point that we want to address with this is to have a more data-based forecast, so less bias in our forecast, whereas today, we oftentimes over-exceed our forecast, and that's another area of attention. If we go to the next slide, we can see that at any point in time in our portfolio, given the business we are in, we have brands and products at different stages of their maturity and life cycle. 80% of our sales and 40% of our volumes, SKUs, are in an area which we call event-driven. And another part, the remaining part, is in an area which is more non-event driven and probably more similar to an FMCG type of business. But the important thing here is that we don't have a one-size-fits-all type of model. And when we are addressing the predictive forecasting in our organization, we are looking for a portfolio of solutions and models that we want to build in one ecosystem to address the different needs of the brands at their time of in their life cycle. When you are in an event-driven type of life cycle, your forecast is very much dependent on external factors and regulatory approvals, pricing measures, and the type of innovation we are able to bring with our products and in the therapeutic areas, and the number of patients we are able to reach. When you are more in the right-hand side of the curve or in the plateau on the top, you can use different type of tools. And now, talking about tools, we can go to the next slides, and I can show you what we have already developed in our journey. So we have currently a portfolio with 4 different models. The first one that we call historical pattern model. This is based on more traditional time series, where the artificial intelligence and advanced analytics are analyzing 5 years of internal data and producing a forecast. The second type of model, which we call clustering model, is starting from an assumption that launches of new brands or indications for medical indications have a typical behavior. And the artificial intelligence is analyzing this data and producing 5 typical launch curves that we use for our forecast. The analogs model is starting from an assumption that similar brands behave similarly. And again, the advanced analytics and the engine behind this model is producing 10 different relevant curves that we can use in our forecast. Finally, we have a fourth model, which is using the launch data in other markets, typically the US or any other markets where we launch in advance. And those data and that forecast can be used, and we are using to predict the launch in other markets or the evolution of our sales in other markets. If we go to the next slide, I give you here a quick view on the type of data we are using, especially for the more complex models and the complex forecasting, where we are not only using internal data, but also external data, more than 10 data sources. And especially when it comes to launches, the artificial intelligence is analyzing both J&J and competitors' data across therapeutic areas, and analyzing launch characteristic by geography and by market, and using and learning from all this data to produce a forecast or a proposal for the humans to analyze. When we go to the next one, I can show you where we are today and what we have already achieved in our journey in 2020 with a leading forecast generated by the artificial intelligence for the more established brands. So this is a reality, we use it and we have used it. For the more complex brands and the launch brands, we have a second opinion type of forecast produced by the artificial intelligence, as well as a risk assessment. In 2021, we plan to focus on visualizations. We want to enrich our platform with event modules, and we want to improve the automation to make it seamless, to make all the platforms seamless and easy to use for users, what we call the smart model selection. We can go to the next one, please. And together with the achievements and the next steps, I also would like to share with you my personal three probably biggest takeaways. And the first one very much relates to the ability of humans and AI to deliver augmented planning. Now, the introduction of an AI into the organization is not only about technology, but it's about processes. It's about bringing improved decision-making capability and objectivity in the forecast. But I want to emphasize one thing here. In my view, there is no magic wand. And even when you introduce artificial intelligence, machine learning, advanced analytics, it's important that you still combine the human intelligence and the artificial intelligence, because these two will bring the augmented planning, the next level planning, as Chris already mentioned in his presentation. So the next one will be more about the business we are in. We are a transformational innovator in the medical field, and other businesses are transformational innovator in other fields. And I think our responsibility is not only to forecast the future from the past, but also to shape and to create a future that did not exist in the past. So it's important that we keep this in mind, because we want to keep accountability in the business, in our decisions. And I think humans in this have the responsibility to maintain the supervision, the ethics, and in the end, to remain the strategist of the forecast. So that's another important learning. And the last one is about change management. My message here is to not underestimate the change management that is needed in the organization to introduce the next level of planning and the XP&A processes. Because depending on where you are in the journey, you might need to embark into change management, and you want to keep your business accountable for the results of what the machine and the new processes and technology can bring. So the business need to gain trust, and they need to keep control of what they are doing. So my closing takeaway is, don't underestimate change management, especially when you are in a business which is based on innovation, transformation, and events. So that's my closing remark, and thank you very much for allowing me to share my learnings.
Another great case study where, Gianluca, you've showed us how technology, in particular predictive analytics, AI, machine learning, can really push the boundaries and help achieve extended planning and analysis. So let us hear from Chris and Stefan as to what they think on Gianluca's presentation. Chris, can I start by yourself, please?
Absolutely. First off, thanks very much for sharing this case study with us, Gianluca. Very valuable stuff. And as you mentioned, there is no one size fits all. That really speaks to me. It's about making constant change. It's about making small steps, sampling, trial and error, and making small steps so that you figure out if you're going in the right direction or not. The more small steps you take, the easier it is to write the course of the ship, so to speak. And then you went on to showcase this, to elaborate from there's no one size fits all, to show that you had 4 different sampling methods or predictive methods that you used in different use cases, which also supports your #1 key takeaway, which was it's human intelligence plus artificial intelligence that really makes this work. So it's not just implementing artificial intelligence and immediately you gain efficiencies, but it's when you combine these 2 things. So thank you very much for that, Gianluca.
Thank you. Stefan, can we have your comments, please?
Yes, sure, and thanks, Gianluca. Very inspiring presentation. I think it shows how complex your industry is, and therefore also your planning and forecasting model, your FP&A model in total. I can strongly relate the necessity that you depict to be accurate, especially in planning and forecasting. I can really relate it to my experience. I also I like to say how you see the integration and the automation as prerequisite for you to really achieve robust planning. Also, that relates to my personal experience. So thanks for that. Really completely join you on your views on that in your presentation.
Thank you, members of the panelists. Thank you, Gianluca, for the presentation. Let us now hear from our attendees onto how they're doing in terms of unlocking the XP&A opportunity. So if I launch the second poll, what is the most effective process for unlocking XP&A opportunity in your organization? First one, flexible FP&A system, effective FP&A business partnering, integrated FP&A processes, predictive and prescriptive analytics, AI, ML, etc. If you can vote, please. So first one, flexible FP&A system, effective FP&A business partnering, second one. Third, FP&A processes integrated. And finally, fourth, predictive and prescriptive analytics, AI and ML. We have more than 50% have voted already. I will now close the poll and share the poll. So 18% have said flexible FP&A system, 32% effective FP&A business partnering, 36% processes, and 14% predictive and prescriptive analytics. Gianluca, can we have some comments on this, please?
Yeah, I think it's quite balanced. I was kind of expecting this. I'm not surprised that predictive and prescriptive analytics remain at 14%, as it can be maybe the front, the last part of the processes that you're going to improve when you embark into the journey towards XP&A. But yeah, I fully agree that having effective FP&A business partnering and integrated FP&A processes are a priority when you get started.
Thank you. And Marco, your quick comment, please.
Yes, I think that effective FP&A and integrated FP&A processes with more than 30% each show the fact that there is an understanding that understanding more the business and integrates all the information that we are able to manage in the FP&A is a key way to go towards XP&A opportunity. So I believe that those are the two starting points that will be then followed by better usage of technology with predictive perspective analysis later on in the journey. So I think that these relate to my view on the journey.
Brilliant. Thank you both. And thank you very much, attendees and members, for your insight as well. I'm now going to hide this. Just a quick reminder as well, you can ask questions, so please do so via the chat box and direct it to our presenters, and we will answer them. If we don't have time to answer all of your questions today, we will answer them via email. So let us now move to the next part of our presentation, which is around skill set. And to do so, we have Marco Bodino, who is CFO Germany at Japan Tobacco International, and he will talk to us around skills for the shift to XP&A. Marco, the stage is yours whenever you're ready.
Thank you very much, Hans, for the introduction. Good afternoon, everybody. It's my pleasure to be here today as a speaker. As Hans was mentioning before, I'm CFO for the German market in JTI International, which is the third multinational company in tobacco sector, active in combustible and non-combustible categories. Is probably well known for brands like Camel, Winston, and Benson & Hedges. My career started in 2003 in JTI Finance, and since then I've been covering different positions in 6 different locations and in different business units like Business Service Center, Headquarter, and Markets. But now let's move to what I want to present you today, that is about the skills required to shift to extended planning and analysis. So please, if we can move to the slide. Thank you. So after having seen clear and tangible example in previous presentation from Chris and Gianluca, I'm going to use a bit more theoretical approach to present my view on which skills and capabilities are needed to successfully transit to the XP&A. So to follow a bit the line of the theoretical approach, what's better than choosing one of the most famous sentences that is used to describe a theory, the theory of the evolution. So it's not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent. It is the one that is most adaptable to changes. Now, what I like about this sentence is the fact that it's pointing out to the importance of being open to change, to survive and evolve. In this sense, XP&A is an evolution of the standard FP&A, and it should represent the next step in terms of journey, evolution, as we have seen even before. So to further elaborate on the move from standard FP&A to XP&A, I'm putting in comparison, and please bear with me if I have used some exaggeration in doing this comparison, 4 key concepts of traditional FP&A versus a concept of the XP&A. So on the left side, I listed 4 key elements and skills about traditional FP&A. Technical dogma. What does it mean? Using solid and specific technical knowledge. We were basing, and we are basing maybe still, our FP&A teams and capabilities on really strong set of financial and technical competencies. Silos thinking, intended as a focus on providing the most accurate analysis for specific area of competence. Financial focus, I think that is pretty straightforward. And last but not least, and that is not really a skill, but is the fact that in the traditional FP&A, we are for sure immersed, and I think that some of you can relationate to that, to what we call Excel paradise, or someone else can call Excel hell, depending a bit how you see this. Now, to successfully move to the XP&A, those characteristics and those skills need to evolve to what I listed on the right side, that in my view are the are key fundamental point to successfully move to the XP&A. And it's about being open to change, is about business partnering, is about business acumen, and finally, to the contrary of being in an Excel paradise, is to use the new technologies, most sophisticated technology if we want, to help us in focus and to help us in having a proper base for our analysis. And I think that this was very well described by both Chris and Gianluca in previous presentation. So now let me navigate you through a bit more in depth and details. What are the meaning of XP&A skills? So please move to the next slide. So one way to see the concept of open to change in the finance organization is to consider that less is more. Simplify, in my view, is the key word. So to be ready for the new challenges as financial professional, we need to simplify our task and give clear priority on added value activities. This can be done in different ways, I understand. And I think that one of the most recent trends across several companies is to try to transfer more transactional activities out of the FBNA teams toward global business services, for example, to help the FBNA teams to focus more on added value activities. The second element that you see here on out of the four I was mentioning is about business partnering. That, in my view, translate in an enlargement of the current scope of the P&A task, introducing additional KPIs in our scenario analysis, and most importantly, we need to become sparring partner for the other function in providing 360 degrees analysis. So how to make it this tangible? There are different ways to pursue this, I understand. And probably they also depend on the industry or the sector you are working in. But in my experience in the FP&A fast-moving consumer good sector, a good example can be, for example, sorry for the repetition, the definition and the analysis of product rationalization. When you do in a fast-moving consumer good industry a product rationalization, to have it done properly, you need to make sure that you consider all the stakeholder needs and you consider all the elements around a rationalization. Market trends, consumer needs, production necessity, and financial implication. And all of them need to be considered to get to the best final option. Close to business partnering, there is the concept of business acumen. And here I want to tell you a bit of a story. When I was preparing this presentation, I was sharing with one of my colleagues the concept and my view on business acumen. And I was saying, to me, can be summarized as curiosity. And when I was discussing, she was telling me, okay, Marco, I can see it, but it could be also interpreted as a nice to have. So I therefore want to stress that for the new XP&A organization, being curious to understand environment and trends is not a nice to have, but is a must. So we should invest in our function time to understand environment and trend. And this will allow us to become co-pilot of strategies of our company. And this is fundamental. Again, to make it a bit more tangible, how you can do that. I have one example that obviously doesn't cover all, but in some industries it is very important. For example, to read investor relator reports about your industry, about competitors, move, about how the consumer trends are evolving. And this is very important to understand the environment you are competing in. The last point is about the use of technology. I think that this means to invest more time in usage of automation to allow us to focus more on key tasks. So spending time in number crunchings in Excel, for example, is not what we need. And as presented by Gianluca, artificial intelligence will open up great opportunity for us. So could you please move to the next slide? So what I've shared with you in the last couple of slides is how to evolve from traditional FP&A to extended planning and analysis, and how we can define the new skill in more details. But why we should do this journey? Why we should evolve our skills toward openness, business partnering, business acumen, while investing in modern technologies? So the answer to those questions to me is that I believe that the ultimate goal of this journey is summarized in the following statement. No more commercial decision followed by financial analysis, or financial decision followed by commercial implementation, but integrated business decision driving sustainable successes. So I think that for any business is and will be even more important in the future to be sustainable. And for doing that, I'm a firm believer that finance and extended planning and analysis is a strong contributor for developing and executing comprehensive analysis that will drive long-term successful business decisions. So I hope that you find this presentation useful, and thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Marco, in times of evolution, we've just seen how important it is to adapt the skills, and in particular those for an XP&A type organization. Chris and Menno will now join us to give us their point of view on the skill sets. So Chris, your quick comments, please.
Absolutely. Thanks very much, Marco. I really appreciated that you took a theoretical or pedagogical approach, as you mentioned, and that you broke it down. You were able to break it down to 4 key words: simplify, amplify, curiosity, and focus. So very 4 keywords that are close to finance heart. And then also I like at the end how this closing slide you summarized very concisely that efficiency is created through XP&A, through integrated business planning and decision making. So thank you for that, Marco.
Thank you, Chris,
for your comment.
Thank you, Chris. Menno, can I come to you, please?
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, Marco. It was really inspiring. I have to say, I recognize many topics as well. From a recruiter's perspective, I like to add a couple of things. The demand for XP&A professionals with an extended background of experience has increased tremendously over the last 12 months. We expect to see more of this going forward as business continue to digitize and further integrate planning and decision making. Many companies need to be creative in identifying these resources internally and externally. So again, thank you, Marco.
Thank you. Thank you very much, panelists. Thank you for the insight. And let us now go and listen and hear from our attendees in terms of how they're seeing the skills being launched via our poll number 3. So I'm just about to launch poll 3. If you can vote, please. And this is all about what is the biggest skill gap between traditional controlling FP&A and modern XP&A that you find. Is it analytics and modeling? Is it technology and data savviness? Is it communicating and storytelling skills? Is it critical thinking, or do you think it's business acumen? If you can vote, please, I'll give it another 10 seconds. So is it analytics and modeling? Is it technology and data savviness? Is it communication and storytelling? the fourth one, critical thinking, and the fifth one, business acumen. I am now going to close the poll and share the results. So 11% have said analytics and modeling, 31% technology and data savviness, 33% communication and storytelling, 9% critical thinking, 16% business acumen. Marco, can I come to you for some comment, please, Marco?
Yeah, sure, Hans. Yeah, I think that the answer are very scattered around the five, and I think that it makes sense that there are a gap in the traditional FP&A to modern FP&A around and scatter around various points. I think that the communication and storytelling is the result at the end of the day of understanding the background, putting together all the various points, and then coming out with a story that translate all the data analysis into something that supports a business decision. So I think that I understand why the audience is looking at this as the biggest one to focus on.
Thank you, Marco. Thank you. Stefan, a quick comment from you, please.
Yes, I also would like to stress the impact of communication as being really for us able to put in numbers and to put in a flow of events what's going on in the business, and us being integrated in our business really is the condition for us to be able to interpret numbers, convey a story of it, and to really act as the co-pilot of the company. I also take that analytics and business acumen are givens. They were already a requirement, I would say, in a more traditional environment. So now the biggest change happening in the technology and in our communication skills is not too much of a surprise.
Thank you very much, both. Thank you very much. And I'm now just going to hide this and we move on with our presentation. And next, we're going to look at XP&A in times of uncertainty. And to do that, we have Stefan Benuto, CFO Europe at Oerlikon Balzers. Stefan, the floor is yours whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Hans, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all. I'm Stefan Benuto, CFO Europe for the business unit Balzers of Oerlikon, specialized in PVD coatings for tools and components. I've worked in FP&A for over 20 years in several multinational companies and in several countries. And I can anticipate that many of you are getting a little bit unsure about, well, what's happening in a disruptive environment like ours in the moment? What's the impact on our finance world, on our FP&A and XP&A world? So in the presentation, I'd like to give you some personal experience and personal insight about my views how to drive XP&A in times of uncertainty. Marco has said it in his presentation, adaptation to change is key. And so I guess it's fair to say that the current disruptive environment that we are experiencing is unprecedented and really questions the traditional ways how we've been working. So for instance, our traditional forecasting, our traditional budgeting is getting questioned. It's been disrupted, and it requires us now to do things in a more agile way. For instance, scenario planning it also requires to do it in a much more fast way. The pressure on the cost of finance, I think, is not only impacting finance, it's also something we see on other functions. We get questions about the number of people, the cost of the people. So the current challenge for us at the moment is to redefine our position, to reinforce our position. And in order to do that, it's important from my perspective to restate the value of finance. So it's not only about numbers, it's about, as we've seen, business acumen, it's about storytelling, it's about interpretation, and it's really about business partnering. And by doing that, we avoid being seen as number processors, and we really are being seen as a true business partners. At the same time, our business requires further transparency, data detail. So it's a perfect storm, right? I mean, there's a lot going on. We should be not as many people as we are, and the business wants even more. So how do we do that? I think doing more with less is almost commonplace. But I think the biggest challenge at the moment is the pressure to reorganization, is the pressure on reorganization of our form of how we do finance so far, and I'll come to that later. So in the next slide, Chris has talked about that the integration is really key. So in order to be integrated, which is the essence of XP&A, how do we shift finance to a quantum leap? And I'd like to quote 3 elements that we need to focus on: integration, its power, and its value. The integration is about staying close to the business while acting as one FBNA function. So instead of acting in parallel, we need to act really integrated. For sure, you can expect that many companies still have different finance departments all over the place, all over the world. But XP&A is really about making them part of one organization. Power, I think the limitations created by multiple spreadsheets has been addressed by my fellow speakers. It's no secret for the audience either, I guess. We see the limitations in forecasting, in budgeting, lots of manual input. I'm also a believer that leveraging AI capabilities, even if they are not fully deployed, as we have seen in one of the previous polls, it's on the road. We're moving there. So I think we can be confident that in a future not too distant from now, we will see quite some relief from manual work, more into the support that we can get from machine. Value, I talked about that in the previous slide. We've been seeing, or maybe it was our own sight on us as data processors. So we ask for data from the different other departments, being sales, being production, logistics, human resource, whatever. And we make a holistic view of the whole enterprise model. Now, by moving into an XP&A model, we become much more of an integrated and not only a data processor, but a data interpreter and an understander of data, in order to really act as the co-pilot of the company, and to not only describe what is going on, but also much more prescribe what we should do in order to steer the ship, just to make an analogy in the maritime world. So if we move to the next slide, I'd like to give you a couple of examples of what's going on in order to move from an FP&A to an XP&A. Gianluca has said it in his presentation, not one size fits all. So these are a couple of examples. Some are maybe integrated, are maybe already happened in your experience, some maybe not. On the processing side, I'd like to quote the shared service centers. I think it's already quite implemented in many large companies, especially for activities like accounting, where we are more processing, so payables, receivables. Some companies actually go even further and even delocalize some reporting activities to shared service centers. On the analytical slide, it's rather for me a question of what I call the centers of excellence, which by no means are meant to degrade the quality and the value provided by shared service center, but I think just the focus is a little bit different. COEs for me are more of analytical nature. For instance, FP&A COE for sales and marketing, for manufacturing, engineering, just to quote some significant key functions in a producing company. But also COEs can be, finance COEs can be present for procurement, for HR, depending on the size of companies. So how do we do it is one experience that I'd like to share with you. I like to call that the remote expert teams. If I relate to an experience I had in the previous company where I worked about 15 years ago from that, I used to have my different analysts in one room, serving different countries of the sales and marketing organization I was in charge of. By now, technology has much more changed, And so we're not forced to have our teams or even ourselves in one room. We can really leverage on what we're doing right now, remote. And so we move from a co-located expert team to a more remote expert team. In my view, that has a big advantage, that we can stay close to the business. We can locate people where they are, where we have sales organization, where we have factories. We can stay in the countries where people are issued from, so there's no need for expensive expatriation programs. So here there is a real possibility to stay close to the business while working remote. Prerequisite for this, from my perspective, are similar FP&A tools. In other words, integrated and similar in the sense that they are able to increase the degree of visualization and of comparability that we have. I think for people working with several manufacturing plants, several sales organization, whatever, it's a bit disturbing just to take a look at data in a different way, depending, if we move from one side to another, for the data that we take a look at. So having integrated financial tools is really an enabler for us to gain also speed, as I was saying in one of my previous slides, to really have a quick grasp from the distance in a comparable way about what's going on in our different businesses which we manage. And if we move to the last slide, so some of you will say, well, yes, are we already there? And we know we are not completely there. So how do we get ready for the next stage of XP&A? I'd like to quote 4 key drivers or key enablers for me: technology, data, organization, and people. Technology is really an enabler for me to increase the speed. For instance, automating our controlling reports, our variance analysis is a way to really relieve also our very valuable people and to delegate that to the machine, I would say, and frees up some time for us to move to really value-adding activities. Data, I think one of my previous, if not all my previous speakers has also said it. We concentrate on what matters. We call that the driver-based approach. So if we have to do a complex planning, what's really driving the cost, or what's really driving the revenues, to take on John Luca's presentation. What's driving cost? It may be productive material, it may be energy, it may be people. There's a lot of drivers, and it's the key is to find the ones which really matter, to really see how we can really act on them and what's the impact on the result. The organization is really under big pressure at the moment. I've said it in my first slide. The pressure on cost is huge, so we're really challenged to accept compromise on the size of our organization, which is at times very painful because it forces us to do less and at the same time to deliver the same service. So I call that the retrench. So which is kind of accepting compromises, focusing on what matters, with the expectation then when environment stabilizing, hopefully again, we can redeploy our organization and continue to work on moving innovation forward. Last but not least, people. For me, very important, and Menno in his presentation will talk about how people are important and how they matter for us in a companies. Moving to XP&A requires new skills. It requires data skills. It requires high business acumen. We've seen it in the poll, no big surprise. For me also, it requires managerial courage because we're really challenged to adjust resources, not only in our own departments, but also in the other functions of the companies. So we are the ones really in XP&A who define together with our general managers the necessary actions and reactions to be taken in order to achieve our key financial results. So concluding word, for me, it's key in order to develop or to move an FP&A to an XP&A, stay close while being remote. Leverage the technology, leverage the skill of the people. We have great assets in our hands. Don't let them slip away just because of course, resources, and also ensure that we really further understand what is going on in our businesses and that we really transport the message to our general management from whom we are the business partner. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Stefan. Over the last year, we've seen how important integrated planning and analysis is. Multiple scenario planning, cost-cutting exercises because of COVID. How to do this if you don't have extended planning and analysis in your organization itself. Let us now hear some quick comments from Gianluca and Marco on this. So Gianluca, your quick comment, please.
Yeah, so thanks, Stefan, for sharing how finance can shift gear and navigate and remain at the helm in times of uncertainty. I very much like the way you strategically look at the challenges ahead from a technology and data perspective as well as organizational perspective. As you said, it is important to redefine the value of XP&A, so from FBNA to XP&A, because ultimately when we are successful here, we can bring additional competitive advantage to the organization, to our organizations.
Thank you. And can I come to Marco, please?
Yes, thank you, Stefan, for your very interesting presentation, focusing on XP&A during a moment of uncertainty. I will just pick it up one point that one of your remark about cost. I think that is true, is important, especially in certain difficult moment where performance and KPIs are under pressure, to be asking ourselves about what is the value we can provide. And this is even more the time where, as a finance organization, we need to demonstrate our added value to the business. So I think that is very important message that you gave to us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, panelists. Thank you, Stefan, for your presentation. And I think it's a good time we look at what our attendees are doing in that arena. So I'm going to launch the last polling question of the day. And this will ask, does the XP&A become more relevant in times of uncertainty? So panelists, if you can vote, please. Yes, the agile approach that it gives to us will help to better plan for uncertainty. No, not sure. I do not have enough experience in XP&A. And finally, no, XP&A companies aren't better at reacting to uncertainty. So if you can vote, please, that would be great. First one is yes, the agile approach helps us for uncertainty, not too sure. And the third one is no, XP&A companies aren't any better. I will now close the poll and we'll share it with everyone. So 78% says yes, it does help. 21% says not very sure, and 1% no, XP&A doesn't really help. Stefan, can I come to you for a quick response on what we're seeing here, please?
Yes, sure. Yes, glad to see how much belief there is in the XP&A approach in order to help us maneuver through uncertainty. At the same time, fully understand the fact that people say that we do not have enough experience at the moment. XP&A is relatively new and developing, and it's on the way. So it also corroborates with the further answers to the previous poll, saying that if it is only at the moment on the way, then not a surprise that some people say we do not have enough experience. So fully understand both answers.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Stefan. And we are now going to hide this and move to our next presentation of the day. And to deliver that, we are obviously going to talk about market trends. And to deliver that, we have Menno Bos, Senior Manager at Robert Half, who will give us his recruiter's perspective. So Menno, over to you, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Hans. First of all, it's an honor to speak to 450 high-level subject matter experts. So along, of course, with the highly experienced team of panelists. So thank you all. I'm Menno Bos, Senior Manager of Robert Half International, and I will present shortly the requested skill set for XP&A roles from a recruiter's perspective. First slide, please, Hans. Thank you. Gartner coined the term xP&A and the benefits. Business leaders can forecast, they can monitor and evaluate things holistically. They can see all the facets of the problem and the proposed solution as well. Company-wide planning has been a term in use for decades now, as we all know, but xP&A is much different. As a result, different skills are needed and companies look to expand their capabilities to respond to the business demand. Next slide, please, Hans. Robert Half have seen an upsurge in demand for finance business partners with skills and experience across a range of functions. Top areas for XP&A roles in 21 will be supply chain, HR, IT projects, sales, data privacy, procurement, and manufacturing. There are some hiring challenges as well, as we all know. Analyzing LinkedIn data, we can see now that more than 3.5K job moves within the Benelux and Nordics for FP&A specialists since January 1st. Junior XP&A roles have an average of only 5 applications. Senior XP&A roles with global responsibility, for example, have an average of 18 applications. Clients are reporting that time to fill roles have been increasing. There are more than 2K open roles in the Benelux/Nordics right now for FP&A professionals with an XP&A view. Think about your own teams. How many job offers or calls are they getting every week? Please don't blame Robert Half, by the way. Then, retaining talent. Very important topic, obviously. Great XP&A professionals need good quality data and systems. They do not want to work 60 hours a week, and they do not want to work with manual reports. Higher retention means easier hiring. The better the digital platform and more consistent the workflow. CFOs are struggling as well. CFOs are working through a human capital dilemma. Outsourcing, ? Automating, contractor use, consulting, managed services versus a pure permanent team, etc. Next slide, please, Hans. Every year, Robert Half's consulting firm Protiviti conduct a C-suite risk survey with North Carolina State University. According to the survey, the top concern for the C-suite for 2030 is the need for businesses to upskill or reskill existing employees to work with the increasing level of digital technology. This is a key requirement, as we all know, for XP&A professionals to keep current with technology. In the top 10 risks for 2030, many of them directly impact the XP&A teams. I will give you 2 examples. At 4, the ability to attract but also retain talent and plan succession. FP&A is one of the hottest moving areas at the moment. With significant promotions across industries in 2020, and clients are reporting difficulties in hiring but also retaining talent. At 8, the inability to compete with, let's say, born digital competitors who can respond very quick and use data more effectively to drive decision making. The tone of many of these risks is tackling the unknown and keeping pace with the pack. This drives the need for integrated FP&A analysis, quicker and more meaningful insights across the business. It has never been more important for companies to have an integrated approach as it is today. Thank you.
Menno, thank you very much for sharing this insight and definitely the challenges as well as what are the key skills required. We will now move to a quick conclusion that I will do, and then we will now, and then after that we'll move to the Q&A session. So thank you very much, Menno.
Welcome.
In terms of conclusion, what I would like to add is if we have gone through the operating model from Chris. We have seen the case study where AI, ML, and predictive prescriptive analysis was key, and how technology should be used to push us to that next level. How important skill sets are, and how important it is to adapt to different processes to get to that next XP&A level. And with Stefan, we saw how important it is as well in times of uncertainty to be able to operate properly in real time, to have that XP&A organizational level. And finally, Menno has really summed it up in terms of telling us what the market in the in the Benelux and Nordics areas are seeing in those sort of skill sets and the demand from the employers. So that was a very, very good summary of all the presentations we've seen today. I am pretty sure you would like to take account everything that the presenters have said to be able to move on to that next level. Moving on, we now move to our Q&A session, where I would like to ask the panelists to join me, put their webcam on whilst we go through the Q&A session. And I will start my first question with Chris. Chris, thank you very much for your presentation. How long does it normally take to implement such a system, of course, from your technological background, would you say?
Thanks, Hans. And there's no easy answer. As we mentioned earlier, there's no one size fits all. It really depends on the complexity of the company, of the industry, of the processes or old systems. Are you building something from scratch? Are you replacing an existing tool? But I would say it can vary from anything from you could be up and running to a couple of days, where you're just replacing a simple process with a new one that's more automated, to also a process that takes several months to implement the initial phases, and then you have several additional phases that are implemented over the coming year. So it's about finding which approach is best for your organization, which tool is best, and then to really schedule it in different sprints.
Thank you very much for that, Chris. Thank you. Second question goes to Gianluca. Gianluca, thank you very much. Fantastic presentation. You talk about combining AI, ML, predictive, prescriptive planning. How did you ensure that the human part was ready for the transformation? So how did you deal with the human element?
It's a very good question, not an easy answer. And to be very honest, it's a journey. It's my last learning, one of the 3 learnings is about change management, making sure that the business has a voice. You need to make sure they don't perceive it as the process being taken over by a machine, and they need to gain trust. So you need to keep them updated, engaged in the journey, and you need to make sure that they provide their input along the journey of transformation, and specifically on predictive forecasting. It is their forecast, they are accountable on those numbers.
Gianluca, thank you very much for those insights. Our third question goes to Marco. Marco, thank you very much for taking us through the skill set. What would you say is currently your biggest challenge in terms of skill sets within your organization, where you will be investing next?
Yes, thank you for the question. I think that the one in which I will invest more is in the business acumen, because here is really possibility to go from A to Z and to increase significantly your spectrum. I believe that in this area there is nowhere really limit, and is where we will be seen more and more as added value function and co-pilot. So I will invest in the business acumen because this will be seen as a contributor to the company success.
Thank you, Marco. And that really pushes the XP&A business partnering element boundary. So thank you for that. Question to next to Stefan. Stefan, what was the largest roadblock for you or obstacle in moving to this sort of function cross XP&A or extended planning function, would you say? And how did you deal with it?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I think the largest roadblock is really the ability from the time and from the knowledge of people to deal with all different functions which they were originally not maybe knowledgeable or specialized in. When we were in a more traditional environment, people tended to have a kind of an area that they covered. Now we move into a more integrated XP&A type of organization, and so people need to become more polyvalent. So in other words, they need to expand their experience in all the functions of the enterprise. How to remove that? I think that the development of people moving them historically from a function to another was certainly a good enabler. In companies which are maybe not having that experience, it's of course a handicap, but it's nevertheless still feasible in order to achieve the XP&A organization. I think there's a lot of coaching that can happen. Remote work offers a lot of possibilities. I mean, I recall really we had to send people abroad. Now working remote we can ensure that we really discover, learn, get knowledgeable in all the areas of the enterprise actually without moving. So that's turning the drawback into an advantage.
Thank you very much, Stefan. And our final question for the day goes to Menno. Menno, interesting question. Of course, it normally takes a lot of years for a good understanding of company, industry, knowledge, etc. for a good XP&A person. Why are XP&A talents changing so frequently, and what can we do to retain them?
Okay, well, it's a good question. Obviously, the FP&A and XP&A landscape is changing, and so is the requested skill set. I can give you an example. In my opinion, a good data science analyst can also be an XP&A professional. Looking at degrees, for example, CPA, in my opinion, it's no longer necessary for most XP&A roles at the junior or intermediate level. Although for senior professionals who wants to pursue a career in finance, I think a CPA qualification is still considered ideal. It's very important that you can provide good quality data and systems, and I think those are a couple of things to retain your best people in the future.
Thank you very much, Menno. Thank you very much, panelists, for answering the question. Just would like to let the attendees know that they can carry on asking questions. We will reply to all of your questions via email that remain unanswered. Panelists, thank you very much for answering the question. If you can go off the webcam, I've got a closing last few slides to go through, and then we will conclude our meeting. So thank you very much for that. Just wanted to let the attendees know to participate in the Empowerment Survey 2021. Very important to get your opinion, but also very important to share that with you. You can see the link there, so please do participate. The next few meetings that we have is the Digital Benelux FP&A Board on May the 11th, and the one before that is the FP&A Trends webinar, which will be on FP&A transformation. What are the key steps to consider? April 20th. And the Benelux board will be on storytelling. So please join us on those. We're coming towards the end of our presentations now, and I would like to say a big thank you to our sponsors today. So Jedox and Robert Half, thank you very much. FP&A Trends, thank you very much. A big massive thank you to our 5 members of the panelists for their great insight. I hope the attendees, you have enjoyed it, and a big thank you to the attendees for making time and attending our webinar today. Just a few ways to be in touch with us. I will shortly close the call, and when I do, please give us your feedback. That is very, very important. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the last time. This concludes our meeting for the day. I will now close the call, and please give us your feedback on the survey. Thank you very much. Have a good